We are still in the book of Nehemiah, and we are still in chapter 4. And you will remember, hopefully you'll remember, that Nehemiah has gained permission from the king of Persia, King Artaxerxes. He has found favor from God through his prayers, and he has come all the way to Jerusalem, quietly surveying the city, and he has now told the people, God has answered my prayers, and God has sent me here, and God wants the wall of this city to be rebuilt. Though it has been in ruins for over 90 years, the people say, if God is with us, if you're here to build, we will build. And by the time we reach chapter 4, they're halfway there. They're halfway to finishing the wall. So chapter 4, verse 6 says, so we rebuilt the wall till it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. These people are so enthused. They have been in Babylonian captivity for 70 years. Now a few people at a time have made that long journey back to Jerusalem. And now someone has finally come and someone has said, we can rebuild the wall. God is with us. We can get this done. And they're visualizing this city with a new wall around it. And they can take their families inside the city and be safe. And they can have commerce there. And they have wonderful lives there. It can be home again. And they're excited. And so they work with all their heart. They're so engaged. But it's halfway there. I don't know if you noticed the title or not. I seldom pay any attention to my titles. They're literally done in seconds. When Zonell texts and says title, so all she says title, question mark. Within seconds, I give a title, hardly thinking about it. But I thought about this title, halfway there. Because it is an easy place for discouragement to take place in our lives. Halfway there. We go on trips. You ever remember a trip? Maybe years ago you had your children in the back seat, and we didn't have SUVs back then, and so they're all crowded in the back seat of the car. And it's kind of a long trip. Or maybe you remember being the child in the back seat of the car. And you keep asking, someone keeps asking, how much farther? And finally the answer comes, we're halfway there. And you hear the groans, because that means we got all this distance to go, and it's worse on the return trip. And we have had fall break on our campus in Oklahoma City for the last Thursday and Friday. It's about halfway through the semester. And I like fall breaks and I like spring breaks because they take place about halfway through the semester. And these students they're doing all this work, and they have all these tests and all these things piling up on them. And they realize they're about halfway there, and they think, well, we got all this left to do before it's the end. And it's a place ripe for discouragement. Here's a better example. Have you ever bought a car on payments, and you borrow the money for 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years, or now 6 years? And maybe they give you a little payment coupon book, and the first payment, you rip that coupon out and you write that check, and you're all excited about it because you love the car. It's bright and it's shiny, and you open the door and it smells good, and you enjoy getting it and driving it. And 2 years pass, and a lot of things happen in 2 years, and there are more demands for your money in 2 years. And you go out and look at that car, and it's got a few dings on it and a few scratches, and you open the door inside, and it's dirty, and it doesn't smell all that good, and you think, I don't know if I like this car. And you look at the payment coupon book, and you're halfway there. Anybody know that feeling at all? How discouraging that can be? It's a ripe place for discouragement. And that's exactly what's taking place in this story in the book of Nehemiah chapter 4. The people have been working with all their might. They've been around the wall of the city. And we saw a couple of weeks ago how one group's here at a gate, and one group's here at a piece of rubble and stone, and another piece here at another gate. And it seems like they're encircling the city, and all these people are working with all their might. And now it's coming up and up and up, and it's halfway there. And some things begin to happen. 2 weeks ago, we saw that they were criticized. They just got criticized. We're not going to spend any time with that. But there are two people, Sanballat and Tobiah, and we don't know anything about them. We know nothing about their history. We don't know how they make their income. We don't know how long they lived. We just know they were exceedingly selfish. And we know that they were, in their selfishness, not wanting that city to be rebuilt, not wanting the Jews to find a place where they could call home. And they were critical, and they were sarcastic, and they were poking fun at these people. And we saw how criticism can hurt, and it can produce self-doubt, and it can cause you to be so discouraged. And that's all we'll ever know about Sanballat and Tobiah. It's kind of like you drive out to the cemetery this afternoon, and you look at gravestones, and you may find a gravestone that says some names, and beloved father and mother. Or you may find some statement about a child, and it'll say something really nice about their child. Well, if we could find the gravestones of Sanballat and Tobiah, it would say selfish critics. It's all we're ever going to know about them. And selfish critics do so much damage to our lives. And they cause these people to be discouraged. But it goes beyond that. Because now they begin to threaten, and with threats comes fear. Threat and fear. Now, you probably don't know much about that. You watch it on television once in a while, or you watch it on a movie, and someone is doing a certain thing, and some people come and they don't like it, and they say, if you keep doing that, we're going to bring harm to you. Or if you keep doing that, you've got a son, or you've got a daughter, or you've got a spouse, we're going to do harm to them. This is our threat. We're seeing it in the Middle East right now. If you keep pursuing this, this is what we're going to do. And the threats come, and associated with threats are fear. And some of you know the story. I've only had it happen one time in my life. I'm not going to tell you the story this morning. I've told it too many times. But I had a person who made the threats. And finally, I was convinced that they were serious, and so I sent Suze back here to Cordell to stay here, and I slept on the couch with 2 loaded guns waiting for the man to come. He just got the wrong house. And he got locked up for a long time. And his life was destroyed. As soon as he got locked up, his wife, who was living in fear, took the opportunity to divorce and run for her life. And nothing was ever the same. But I know what it is to be threatened and take the threat seriously and have the fear that comes along with it. It produces discouragement. So read with me what they do. They're no longer satisfied with just criticizing. Now, Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, and the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod, they go get reinforcements. That's the way critics do. That's the way people want to stop you from doing what you want to do. That's how they do it. They get the reinforcements. They get the mobs. And they heard about the repairs to the Jerusalem's walls. and how the gaps are being closed, and how the wall was being raised, and they were very, very angry. They don't want it to happen. And so they plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. And that plot becomes discovered. The enemies also said, before they know it, before they see us, we'll be right there among them, and we will kill them and put an end to all this work. And that plot is discovered. And the people find out about it. How do you think the people feel? The people who have been working with all their hearts, that means they're encouraged. That means they're in there going hard. And now do you mean we got some people coming against us and they might kill us as we're here laying bricks? As we're rebuilding these wooden gates? But it gets worse than that. Worse than a threat. Here's the third thing that happens to them. They lose focus. They just have a lost focus. Because if you got people criticizing and you got people threatening you, that's one thing. But then you kind of pause and you look at all this work you've been doing and you kind of see halfway there. We've done all this, but look at what's left to do. Read with me these verses. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. What? There's no more rubble now than there was when they started. They had more rubble when they started. They've cleared out a lot of rubble. It was worse when they started. But now they're halfway there. And they look around and they say, we're just getting tired. We're getting worn out. And look at all the mess around us. Look how much we've got left to do. Now, have you ever been there? I just wonder how many wonderful things we have lost in our lives. How many wonderful things we've given up. How many wonderful things we backed out of because we got to a point where we started looking at what was left instead of what we have done. I see it all the time with university students. They're in this program and they're going strong in this program and they've done so very well. And now they get about halfway there and they're tired and they're worn out and they look and they say, well, I got to take this course in biology or I got to take this thing over here. And they say, I've heard it so very, very hard. I just don't think I want to do it. Or they go to 2 years out of a 4-year curriculum and they're working and they're saying, there is so much left to do. I'm tired and I'm worn out. I don't even know if I want that kind of career. And they just walk away from it. And years later, they wake up and they think, look what I missed. That's why universities everywhere are doing degree completion programs. For people who are out there and they finish 2 years and circumstances happen and they didn't finish the whole thing and now they want to come back. They want to figure out how to do it. Ron made a statement last week in his sermon. I wrote it on my phone notes. So if you saw me in the audience back there on my phone, I was taking notes off his sermon. He said, robbed by doubt. I'm going to use that for a sermon sometime. Robbed by doubt. How much have we lost? Because we've gotten tired, we doubt if we can finish it, we get discouraged, and we just quit. So what they do is they stop working with all their heart and they say, look at all this mess we've got left, and I'm just tired of messing with it. And they want to quit. Now, what I have just described is life. It's the way life works for all of us. It's the way life works in every area of your life. It's the way life works in your marriage. It's the way life works in your job. It's the way life works in anything you're starting new and you're trying to build. Because Satan, how many times have I said it? I think as a younger man, I didn't say it at all. But now I believe that Satan is so very real. And Satan is, above all else, a great destroyer. He wants everything to stop. He does not want that wall built. He doesn't want what you're doing in your life to finish. He wants to destroy it. Over and over again, he tries to destroy. And it happens to all of us. So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. But I just wonder if anybody in this audience is discouraged at this moment in time. I just wonder if you're worn out. I just wonder if you've been criticized. I just wonder if you have doubt as to whether or not you can get it done. Because it is so very common. And I just wonder how many are listening to us from a distance who are about to give up on something. They're just about to quit. And you know what we need when that happens? You know what we need? We need someone to come along beside us and prop us up. We need someone to help us. And Nehemiah is that person in this story. Nehemiah is a leader, and that's what leaders do. And you may say, well, I'm not a leader. I'm not the leader in this story. I'm not a leader. Everybody gets a chance to lead in this life. Everybody gets a chance to influence someone. You don't have to have a title. You don't have to have anything. You can prop people up over and over and over again who are so very discouraged. And sometimes it's just a little bitty tiny thing. A little bitty tiny thing that you do. I hesitate to give examples, but Susan and I saw a really pitiful sight the other day. It was a couple of weeks ago when we were driving to Fredericksburg. We stopped in Altus. We stopped at a McDonald's. Something we usually don't do. I said, what about a sausage biscuit? So we stopped. And there's a little lady. I don't know how old she is, but she's got to be in her high 80s. And she's leaning over the counter. And the young woman behind her is saying, well, I don't know if I can do that. I got to go talk to a manager. This little lady was wanting breakfast. And apparently she didn't have any money. And the young woman behind her didn't know what to do. Now, what if someone didn't help? What would the woman have done? Just walked away? Everybody needs propped up once in a while. Everybody needs help once in a while. And I want you to watch what Nehemiah does. When they've been threatened and when they're afraid, watch what he does. But we prayed to our God. And we posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. It says more. It says more about how they work. I stationed some people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with swords and spears and bows. All he's doing is saying, you got to keep working. You can't stop. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to pray to God, and he's going to expose all this. He's going to take care of all this. But along the way, I'm going to give you bows and spears, and you're going to stand guard, and we're going to have people watching. Hey, you can keep on working. We're going to take care of you. Then look what else he does. When they're losing focus and they're getting tired and they're saying, I don't think I can do it. I looked things over and I stood up. I said to the nobles, the officials, I said it to all the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families and your sons and your daughters and your wives and your homes. He's saying, in essence, look, God's on your side. And if you give up, what's going to happen to your children? And if you give up, what's going to happen to your wife? And if you give up, what's going to happen to the people? To stop, there's too much loss. We got to keep going all the way to the end. And visualize this. If we get this wall done, your children are going to grow up in a wonderful environment. It'll be here for years and years to come. And life's going to be wonderful. Are you understanding what I'm saying this morning? You've got to have people come along beside you and say, you've got to stay with it. You can't give up. It happens in Christianity all the time. I use that as a broad term. Ask people, do you believe in heaven? Yes. Oh, you're on the road to heaven? Hell, I used to be. Well, what happened? Well, I got kind of in the wrong direction. I kind of got worn out with it, and I got tired of that boring preacher, and they saw the rubble. There's a bunch of rubble. But you need someone come along and say, look, I'm telling you, life's short. I'm telling you, anything can happen to anybody. I can tell you, my young friend, she's in her 50s. She's fighting a battle with cancer that seems so massive. Anything can happen. You've got to visualize life after death. You've got to see the big picture. You can't quit. Mackenzie's here with us. Fall break at Northeastern State University. She's almost halfway through with optometry school. Just almost halfway through. And I know she gets tired. I know she gets worn out. And it would be so easy to say, I'd just like to go home and stay in Lubbock with her mom and her dad and her sister and 2 ridiculous dogs. I mean, I can, but till my last breath, I'll be saying, don't you dare. You hang in there. You're almost done. Don't let this stop you. Don't let that stop you, because for very long, you're going to be called Dr. Crockett, and you can do this and you can do that. See the big picture and hang in there. And I need people telling me that all the time. I get lots of cards and notes, and I appreciate everybody that sends cards and notes to me. For years and years, I put them in a file, and I usually put them in a box, and they usually get thrown away somewhere. But I took a picture of one, or had Suze take a picture of it. I brought it home to Suze and said, I want you to see this one. You recognize who it's from. It was from Sherry Cole, the long-term basketball coach at Oklahoma University of Oklahoma. Wish she had been at Oklahoma State. But, I mean, it was such a beautiful, long, handwritten note. And Susan and I both read it and thought, it makes us realize we need to hang on. We need to keep a fight. We need to keep going. Is that making sense to all of you? I'm telling you, your sons and daughters need to be propped up by you as parents. And I'm telling you, your brothers and sisters need to be propped up by you as brothers and sisters. They don't need to be criticized. And I'm telling you, people in the pews next to you need to be propped up because life is hard. I heard Scott coming in the back of the auditorium, and I know I'm just rambling, okay? Just give me a bit of freedom to ramble for a second. I heard Scott coming in the back of the auditorium. I heard him talking to Greg. I heard him talking about how difficult things were. I knew what he was talking about before he ever said. And he said, dealing with the elderly is so difficult. I mean, his mom's 99 years old. And it's really difficult. And he's kind of having to do it all by himself. And it gets really tiring. It gets really discouraging. But Scott needs to be propped up. He needs to be propped up. Because his mom won't be here much longer, folks. No way you cut it. She won't be here much longer. You got to hang on to the end. We all have to hang on and get the big picture done. I'm making my point. So let me close like this. He's on our side. We'll celebrate a remembrance of Jesus in just a moment. But there's a time in the Gospel of John when Jesus is almost there to the end. But he doesn't like what's left. He didn't like the rubble. And he said, what shall I say? Let me have this pass from me? Is that what I should do? Should I quit? That's literally what he says. And he said, no, I will not. For this reason I've come. Because what was facing him is more than's facing us. No matter what's facing you, what was facing him is more than was facing you. Nails? Can you imagine? Cross? Humiliation? Beaten? I don't want to do that. I think I'll take the trip back to heaven. And he could have. But he didn't. I'll not quit. The wall is halfway there. It's halfway there. If they quit, it's all lost. So everyone needs someone to come along beside them and say, keep going. Please keep going. And Jesus is the best at it. He doesn't want Satan to win. He will not let Satan win. All you got to do is hang on. Just hang on. Take the test over again. Do whatever you have to do. Just keep fighting. Keep fighting. And you'll ultimately win. That's guaranteed.